I saved a freezing stranger and he never forgot about it. That's nice.
I'm assuming he's alive.
This is the heartwarming.
Oh, not the heart cooling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to Delve Deck Stories. Today we are reading some heartwarming stories. Our first one comes from Annie, and it is, "What is the best date you've ever been on?" from our Joy Deck. My wife proposed to me on a roller coaster.
Sounds
Potentially like a lot could go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You know, it's like, ooh, that's exciting, but also like ring could slip, you could throw up. You know, you know. Imagine the photo.
Ring's just like, yeah.
Imagine the photo when they're like coming down, and it's like, okay, proposal, like, ah! And it's like, and that was the moment she said yes.
That was it. I am obsessed with roller coasters, but my wife is not a fan, so I rarely get to go on them. One day, 4 years into our relationship, she told me she had a whole day planned for me. She loves doing little romantic surprises, so I was looking forward to the date, but assumed it would be something like a new restaurant or a picnic on the beach. I got in the car and asked where we were going. She just grinned at me and said I would have to wait and see. So we're driving for what feels like forever. At least an hour had passed, and I'm thinking, where on earth is this woman taking me? Then, on the horizon, I see them. Roller coasters. We pulled up to Six Flags and I felt like a little kid again. I was so excited. I love Six Flags.
I have not been to a Six Flags since I lived in Chicago.
You gotta go to Six Flags. There's one really close to here. So
like how close? How close is close?
Like less than an hour away.
Closer than Disneyland?
Maybe.
Okay. I've never been there either. Sorry, parents never took me.
I mean, not as parents, just as an adult. You get to,
yeah.
You can live your best life now.
I know, but I feel like I got to go with someone who's like an expert to know like which rides to go on, where to, you know.
You know who I think could tell you which rides you should go on? The internet.
All right, this has been fun.
Now that we've gotten rid of Gabe, we get into the park and I can sense that despite my excitement, she's a little nervous. I told her I love this so much and I wouldn't make her go on any rides she didn't want to. She told me she wanted to go on at least one with me, which I was thrilled to hear. I was just so excited to be there and I appreciated her so much for taking me, even though it wasn't her thing at all. She waited in line with me for a few of the bigger rides, but opted out of riding them. Finally, she told me she was ready to ride something. We picked a roller coaster that didn't go upside down and anxiously waited in line. I kept assuring her it would be okay and that I'd hold her hand the entire time. As we got closer to the front of the line, she started looking the most stressed out I've ever seen her. I kept telling her it was okay and she didn't have to get on the ride if she didn't want to, but she insisted she did. We got to the train and got buckled in. I squeezed her hand and told her it's all going to be okay and how much I loved her for doing this. She just kept nodding, but could barely speak. I was honestly feeling really awful at this point. Riding the roller coaster was her idea, but I still felt responsible for it. Next thing we know, the train is barreling down the track. I'm trying to enjoy myself, but keep thinking about my poor partner, hoping that she's not having the worst time. Then we get to the really big drop. I'm still just like...
I can only imagine her being like, okay, I'm gonna propose, you know, but it's going like tick, tick.
Yeah, you're going.
And be like, this feels like forever, but also this would be the moment.
I know, when you're not moving.
Yeah.
I squeezed her hand as gravity takes us and heard her scream, "Will you marry me?" I turned and looked at her thinking, oh my God, did she just say what I think she said? But her eyes were shut and now she was just screaming bloody murder. We got to the end of the ride and she shakily gets off, gets on one knee and pulls out a ring. That was smart to wait till the end.
Yep.
She just looks at me, saying nothing, and now I'm crying and pulling her into my arms and saying, yes, of course. We obviously bought the picture that was snapped after she asked me. Her screaming and me looking at her like, WTF just happened.
I was wondering if the timing was going to happen with the photo or not.
Yeah.
So
I feel like
I'm hoping that was like the, hey, we're engaged.
After the ride, she told me she had watched so many videos of that roller coaster to figure out exactly when the picture was taken, and that while she was nervous to ride the roller coaster, she was even more nervous about popping the question. I still can't believe she did that, and to this day, it's one of the most romantic experiences of my life. We've been married 7 years, and while she hasn't been on a roller coaster since, she agrees it makes for a really awesome story.
And while she may have not been on a roller coaster since, our relationship has certainly been one.
She was like, this is what's to come, babe. Lots of ups, lots of downs. Our next story is from Carissa. It's, what's the best encounter you've had with a stranger from our Joy Deck? I became a homeless man's best friend for a month when I was 18. That, it sounds like is going to end up good, but I feel like that could also be the beginning of a horror story.
Yep.
I was working in a haunted house for fun. Occasionally my mom would come too. A rough-looking guy named Robert showed up to work about the same time I did. Turned out he was homeless, or a traveler, as he preferred, and was hired. He was to be a clown in the clown room with me and a few others. He even got to sleep in the building since it would often be vandalized, so he was kinda a security guard besides an actor. And if you're a creepy clown, like, no one's gonna rob you.
Yeah, he did not leave the costume on set. He was that 24/7.
Yeah.
Those criminals turned their lives around that night.
I went home and found a bunch of items we'd never used that were laying around, like a backpack, and I packed it full of necessities that were forgotten in the back of our closets. Deodorants no one liked, extra toothbrushes, matches, cologne, shave cream, razors, zip baggies, hotel shampoos, mini toothpastes, socks, etc.
How much stuff do they have?
I think
They're
your
just
family has a
collecting?
hoarding problem.
Yeah. If you have hotel soaps and
Who's hotel
shampoos.
shampoo? Anything that seemed useful to him that we didn't need, I put it in there. Down to a 4-leaf clover I pressed between some tape.
Bro, why are you giving them 4-leaf clovers, bro?
Why do you and your family have a stash of 4-leaf clovers?
Yeah. Don't give away the good luck.
I handed the bag to him and he was grateful but set it aside since it was time for work. The next day he walked up to me clean shaven, not looking as rough anymore, and gave me a hug and started crying. He asked me, "How did you know?" as he went on saying how grateful and touched he was when he had the chance to go through the bag, how no one was this kind to him. He said just days prior, another homeless person had stolen what few belongings he had and literally showed up with what he had on. As luck had it, a friend of ours was throwing out a couch. With permission, we brought the couch to the haunted house to put it in the small office he'd taken temporary residence to sleep on. Once getting his clothing and shoe size, we found some at home we didn't need to give him too. I know this is sweet, but I'm like, what, you just have like various size shoes on hand?
Again, they have a store inside their house from hoarding.
I've got a lot of questions about this story.
They're like,
also,
oh, you need a size 11? Hold on. Yeah, got that just for you.
Whatever clothing size you need. This is all very nice. I'm glad you did this for him. This feels like something that happened in like the 70s.
Yeah,
you know, I'm like, this isn't recent. Early in the month when business was slow, we'd sit around talking. He was in his early 40s, I think, and no doubt had his demons and bad past, but was doing better than he used to be. He missed his daughters, but felt he'd ruined their relationship and felt being a traveler was best for him. There was another guy who showed up for work that I knew from a past job and had a bad run-in with. He was bad news. Like in and out of jail and violent type of bad news. Scarred up from fights and built probably from prison workouts. Really a typical looking bad guy. His reputation was touching women. I'm sorry, that's not good. I'm just like so confused by this haunted house. I want a movie made about this haunted house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Turns out it was that guy's house.
Yeah.
And that's why it's haunted.
All the girls that worked in the haunted house were underage and stupid. Carissa. Oh my god. Okay. Watching him from a distance, I could see him checking out all the girls. Needless to say, I warned the boss and got the guy fired before anything bad could happen. Bad news guy showed up the next day drunk. He was shouting nasty things at me in front of everyone and said he was going to beat my ass as he was stepping towards me. Robert happened to be standing there and stepped in front of me and said, "No, you're not." And it just diffused the situation instantly. Drunk guy said something under his breath, but didn't show back up. We kind of followed each other around, forming our own little friend circle with other misfit employees. I kind of think he may have stayed close in case bad news guy showed up again. Again, I just want a story. I want a movie made. I think you need to write something about this entire experience. Christmas. October ended and it was time for Robert to move on. I gave him my phone number if he happened to be back in the area. I missed a phone call close to Christmas. I called the number back and it was an old lady. She was Robert's mother and said he already left, but tried to call me to wish me a Merry Christmas. Haven't heard from him since. Oh, well, I hope he's doing okay.
Yeah.
You know, that was nice of you. But also, I need so
there's
much.
There's a lot more questions.
There's a lot to unpack with this story.
But yeah, it's good to see that people are caring and they want to like help other people out and give them things that they really kind of need in that moment, the necessities to live.
Our next story comes from Becca, and it is, what's the best encounter you've had with a stranger? From our Joy Edition. I saved a freezing stranger and he never forgot about it. That's nice.
I'm assuming he's alive.
Well, if he never forgot about it, unless it's like, and now he's dead, so
he's a
he
ghost.
can't possibly can't remember or forget. No, this is the Heartwarming.
Oh, not the heart cooling.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was in high school, I was driving from Denton to Easton in my old Chevy in February. Freezing rain and 35 degrees and driving wind. Absolutely horrible afternoon going towards dark. I was trying like hell to get home before the sun went down and everything froze solid. When in the middle of nowhere on a hill, I see a man on crutches walking along the shoulder, soaked to the skin. Oh no. I was told over and over again, never pick up a stranger. Never do that. I didn't have a cell phone. Few did at that point, and I just couldn't leave this poor man in that mess. I pulled over, opened my door, and asked him to please let me give him a ride. My dude was shivering, dripping, and I'm pretty sure in tears when he got into my warm car. All he could do was thank me and apologize for his dripping on my seats and floor. I pulled a towel from my back seat and cranked the heat. He calmed down and warmed up as we got closer to Easton. He was just a middle-aged black fella, cast on his ankle, crutches, ragged coat, and patched old hat. We talked a bit as he got warmer, and when we got to Easton, I asked where I could take him. He gave me the address of a cousin. As we got closer, he started stammering and finally managed to ask if, by the kindness of my heart, and after giving him a ride, I might have some money he could use to buy a meal. I gave him my coin box, which sat on the floorboard and contained spare change and bills. I have no idea how much was in it. After I dropped him off, he said, "One day I'll pay you back. Thank you," like a million times. 5 years later, I was home from college, pumping gas into my old Chevy at the Exxon, which is now Aldi, and this man approaches. He's clean, dressed in a suit, looking like a dandy, and he smiles this huge grin. When I looked down, he was holding a small metal box with playing cards printed on it. I damn near shit myself. How'd this man find you?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's like in the same town.
What did I say? He's a ghost.
He said, 5 years ago, you saved my life. I got good because of you, and I said I'd pay you back one day. This box held $23.19, and I put it back until I saw your car again. It sure is a nice car. I will never, ever forget that. It was the single most incredible moment I've ever experienced. You never know what little kindness might bring. That's, also, even if he didn't pay you back for $23.19.
Yeah.
The
also,
fact that you saved somebody's life is like a good thing.
This sounds like a MasterCard commercial. They're like, gas, $19. Money to an unhoused guy, $23.19. Saving a man's life in the bitter cold who has a broken leg, priceless.
Wow. MasterCard should hire you.
I'm not saying that like I'm available to it, but I'm open, at least the idea.
$1 million in a briefcase, and that story can be all yours, MasterCard.
I don't know. That also might be a little creepy because you're like opening the door for people just like to welcome strangers into their car.
Yeah.
And it's pretty dangerous out there,
This
folks.
turned out good, but probably don't.
Yeah, there's a reason why your parents said don't get into cars with strangers. Don't accept candy from strangers, and always have a cell phone on you.
Yeah. Except when they weren't really a thing.
Yeah, but now they are. So you should always have a cell phone.
Our last story comes from Tiffany. It's what's the best encounter you had with a stranger from the Joy Edition. The kindness from a cleaning woman saved my life in a hospital. I was in a very busy ICU April 2020, suffocating from COVID pneumonia, and a cleaning woman who entered my room every day gave me the kindest words of encouragement, which ultimately ended up saving my life. She told me that my kids needed their mother and to fight the ventilator. She told me that those who'd been in the same glass room before me and went on a vent did not leave the hospital alive. She told me that I was a healthy woman before COVID and that I could survive if I fought harder.
Thinking back to that time and then hearing something like that where it's like, everyone who's been in this room before you went on a ventilator and they died. And you're like, why would you I mean, like, I'm sure that obviously she's hoping to be like cheer you up, but at the same time, if I was alone in a room with no one around and I was told that everyone before this had died, I'd be like,
yeah, like I get that this got you to fight harder, but
I would have been like, okay, well, time to go, I guess. And I would have just
give up in that moment.
Just accept it.
All right, well, yeah. I mean, this time was so crazy. It was an insane moment in our collective history. She told me to fight being put on a ventilator until I was too exhausted to refuse. The doctors and nurses would come in to place me on a vent, and every time I thought of the stranger in my room telling me to keep fighting, and I would tell them no. I was surrounded by extremely busy doctors and nurses doing their absolute best to save my life from COVID. But the person who I know in my heart saved my life was the cleaning lady who followed me from critical care unit to the intensive care unit, cheering on my fight. I was never able to properly thank her before I was released to recover at home, but I sure hope she knows in her heart that her kindness and encouragement saved my life. That's pretty crazy. I feel a little bit like she was saying to resist the care from the medical staff, but we'll just let that slide. Because you survived.
Yeah.
Glad that you survived. That sounds very scary. That is it for Delve Deck Stories. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, you can like, subscribe, and check out some of our other videos. And if you'd like to share a story with us, you can go to share.delvedeck.com and we might read it on an episode.